Hi, my name is Pearl. My parents were one of the richest people in the city, and when I was born, everyone gasped at how amazingly beautiful I was. And since I was their only child, my parents treated me like a princess. Agoo agoo. Oh my gosh, honey, our daughter said her first words.
Let's throw a party.
They were just crazy about me. I had hundreds of maids to feed me, bathe me, walk me, and even comb my hair. Oh my gosh, you broke my darling girl's hair. Do you have any idea what this hair is worth? It's worth millions! Of course, Mom overreacted a lot. She would even fire the maids if my milk was not the right temperature. And Dad was no less. When I turned 5, he ordered the servants to redecorate my room. And you won't believe it, he changed everything to gold and diamonds, including my toilet seat. Not only that, but I had different dresses and shoes to wear every day, and the driver would drop me off to school in my favorite pink Lamborghini. I felt like a true princess, and honestly, I loved it. But there was someone who hated every bit of the life that I lived. Melissa. She was the meanest girl in my class, and she hated me for, well, everything. She would steal my dolls, cut their heads off, and toss them away. Once, she even trashed all of my notebooks. But school wasn't the only place that I had to bear her. Her parents were friends with mine, and I often saw her at sleepovers and parties too. On my 14th birthday, Mom and Dad threw me a grand party and invited all of their rich friends, and of course, Melissa came with her parents too. When I walked down the stairs, everyone looked stunned by my beauty. Everyone but Melissa. Her face turned red like a tomato.
Good Lord, your daughter is so pretty. I think I'm gonna marry her to my son.
Ew, no. There was no way that I was gonna marry his stupid son, Xander. But I wasn't the only one who was mad about it. Melissa had always dreamed of becoming super rich by marrying Xander because his dad was the richest man in the city, and she looked super pissed at this comment. But then suddenly, her facial expressions changed, and she walked up to me with a smile.
Hey Pearl, happy birthday. Here is a gift from me.
What? Was there a bomb in there? But then, when I opened the box, a kitten jumped out of it. Oh my gosh, it's so cute! I loved it, but why was Melissa being so nice to me all of a sudden? Something didn't feel right. Later that night, when everyone left, I was playing with my cute little kitten, when suddenly it scratched my face with its paw. Ah! Melissa's cat turned out to be just like her. Evil. Mom and Dad came rushing out when they heard my screams. They rushed me to a hospital, but even after weeks of treatments and several procedures, the scar didn't go away. Now I had no choice but to live with it and cover it with makeup. When I went back to school, Melissa was waiting to mess with me again. But thank God she had no idea about my scar, or she would make my life a nuisance.
Move, Pearl. This is my seat, and just because you're rich doesn't mean you own everything.
Well, I do own a lot of things, but I don't see your name on it either. She got super pissed, and she was about to throw her plate of food in my face when Xander cut in and stopped her.
Hey, stay away from my girl Pearl. Stop messing with her.
My girl? What's going on? I'm not your girl. Are you crazy?
Oh, my sweet pea. Don't you remember what my dad said on your birthday? We're gonna be married eventually.
What? We're just 14. Are you crazy?
There is no way you can marry him, Pearl. I won't let that happen.
Well, I won't let that happen either. Now get away from me, both of you. God, these guys were so crazy. It was such a headache going to school every day and seeing them. Especially Xander. He was such a pain in the butt. He'd flirt with me all the time and scare away all of the other guys who ever tried to talk to me. I hated every bit of my junior year, up until the teacher introduced an exchange Korean student to the class. His name was Mino, and gosh, he was so handsome. The teacher asked me to help him with the syllabus, and while we were studying in the library one day, Xander came marching at us.
Who do you think you are sitting here with my girlfriend?
Saying that, he suddenly grabbed my hand.
You're coming with me, Pearl.
Let go of my hand, Xander. I'm not your girlfriend. Just then, Mino cut in and punched him in the face.
You should have just let her go.
Oh my gosh. His deep voice and those fierce eyes, I instantly fell in love with him. He was so amazing. Xander ran from there like a scaredy cat, and I thanked Mino for saving me from that jerk, to which he smiled and said,
Well, I can see he's a jerk.
but you're so pretty. Anyone would go crazy for you.
Oh my gosh, he thought that I was pretty.
My cheeks turned red and I almost melted. After that, Mino and I spent most of our time reading in the library together. It was so much fun just to sit next to him and admire all of those books. Months felt like days with him, and I couldn't believe that a year had passed with him. Then one day, while I was having lunch at the cafeteria, Xander came up to me and started acting up all of a sudden.
You think you're gonna be happy with that stupid jerk? He's a loser.
Well, last I saw, you were the one who got punched.
That's because I just didn't hit the gym that day. But anyways, I won't let him take you away from me, Pearl.
You don't own me, Xander. Now get lost. But before I could complete my sentence, Melissa threw a can of juice in my face.
Stay away from my guy, you witch. Don't you already have a guy now?
Melissa, have you lost it?
Drop the act, you boyfriend stealer.
But then suddenly I realized my makeup, my scar. I pushed past her and ran to the washroom immediately. But to my horror, I ran straight into Mino. His eyes widened as he looked at me. Oh no.
Why are you all wet? Who did this to you?
What? Did he see my scar? Or was it that he just didn't care?
Tell me who did this. I'm gonna teach them a lesson.
No, Mino, it's fine. I just tripped. I couldn't believe that he got so mad seeing me hurt. And he didn't mention anything about my scar. Like, it was totally normal. Oh, gosh, he was such a darling. I couldn't resist it anymore. I pulled him in for our first kiss, and wow, it was magical. After that, we started officially dating, and I felt like the happiest person on earth. But not for long. Mom, what's wrong? Why are you crying?
It's your dad, honey. He had a heart attack.
Oh my gosh, Mom, what happened? Where is he? Mom told me that Dad lost all his money in a bad investment, and now we're almost bankrupt. Dad didn't take the news so well, and he ended up in the hospital. After that, I stayed at home for almost a week until Dad recovered, and I didn't tell Mino so he wouldn't worry. Then, one day, all of a sudden, Mom and Dad asked me to accompany them to a party. But, Dad, you just got discharged. But they insisted that I tag along anyway, and they asked me to doll up and put on my best dress. But when we got there, Xander's dad made an announcement that almost gave me a heart attack.
Hello, everyone. It brings me great joy to announce the engagement of my son Xander with my friend's daughter Pearl. Please, everyone, give the couple a big hand.
And with that, Mom started dragging me onto the stage. What? Mom! Wait, what's going on? Is this some sort of joke?
Oh, honey, please don't be mad. It's the only chance that we have to save our company and our home. Besides, Xander is such a nice guy.
No, Mom. Xander's a jerk, and I am not doing this.
Oh, honey, but look at your dad. He's so happy. The doctor said that he wouldn't survive another heart attack. Do you want him to leave us forever?
I looked at Dad, and indeed, he looked happy. And although I loved Mino so much, I couldn't let my dad die either. So I had to choose my parents' happiness over mine. A few days later, when I went to school, I found out that Xander had told everyone about our engagement, including Mino, and he looked furious.
Tell me this is all a lie. Tell me you didn't want any part of this. Just tell me.
But I couldn't tell him the truth. Mino, I love Xander, and that's why I'm marrying him.
No, you're lying.
No, I'm not. He's rich, and who doesn't want money? I knew that he loved me, and that my words would break his heart, but I had no choice but to lie. After hearing what I said, he backed off, and he left, and he never looked at me again. Finally, on our wedding day, when I felt like everything was gonna be fine, things took a wild turn. I heard Mom and Dad talking about something I had never imagined in my worst nightmare.
Stop eating so much! You're gonna have another gastric attack, and it's your daughter's wedding day. Well, thanks to my gastric attack, Pearl agreed to the marriage, thinking it was a heart attack. Otherwise, there was no way of getting her to agree to this, and we would have remained poor for the rest of our lives.
What? You guys lied to me? How could you? Mom started crying and tried to stop me.
Please, honey, please understand that
I sacrificed my happiness because of you guys, and you... Oh, I hate you! I stormed out of the wedding venue, throwing the wedding ring at Xander's face when I met him on my way out.
Stop, Pearl. Where are you going? Wait, you're the one leaving? Really? I know all about your ugly scar, and I still want you. You stupid girl, this is how you pay me back?
What? You knew?
Yeah, dumbhead, I knew. So come back here and kiss me right now, or I'll make you regret it.
He got closer and tried to pull me to him, but I slapped him hard and left. I wasn't gonna wait or listen to anyone anymore. I had to find Mino and tell him that I loved him. I called his friends, but they told me that he was at a BTS concert at the MetLife Stadium. Really? Of all places, a BTS concert? I rushed to the stadium and I ran backstage to grab a mic and shout out my confession to him. But oh my gosh, I couldn't believe my eyes when I ran into all of the BTS members. It was like I was dreaming.
What are you doing here? Why are you dressed like that? Do you need some help?
Of course, I wished that the time would stop right there and then, but I had to find the love of my life. I told them about my situation and I asked them to help me. And they did. Ugh, they were so nice. They allowed me to go on stage and talk to Mino. I was really nervous, but then I gathered all of my courage to speak. Mino, I'm so sorry that I lied to you. But the truth is that I love you, and I can't live without you. Please forgive me. My eyes filled with tears as I confessed my love for him. And then I saw him running towards me through the crowd.
Hi there, I'm Eleanor, and my story today is a bit different. You see, I have done something crazy. It all started last year when Grandma had a bad fall at home. She was 86, and for her age, she was pretty fit. But one day she was doing a spot of gardening, and she tripped and fell. If she had been younger, she'd have been fine. But unfortunately, she dislocated her hip and broke her wrist. And my parents decided it would be better if she moved into a nursing facility. Well, let me tell you, that conversation did not go down well. My grandma is a pretty fiery woman, and she's as stubborn as an ox. So the look upon her face when my dad said she'd have to move into a nursing home was priceless. She crossed her arms in front of her chest and refused to speak to him for the rest of the week. Dad seemed properly upset. I think it bothered him how stubborn Grandma was. Little did he know he was pretty similar to her, and this was why there was always so much tension between them. But it seemed like there was something else going on too. I mean, Dad and Grandma argued a lot, but recently Dad had really been giving her the cold shoulder, and I couldn't help but wonder about the reason. Had Dad done something to upset her? She'll do anything to avoid moving into the nursing home. Well, we'll see about that. And with that, he drove in the direction of the nursing home, and without even getting Grandma's consent, paid a deposit on a room and said she'd be moving in the following day. What was my dad playing at? He didn't even care, he said. He'd drag her there kicking and screaming if he had to. The next day, that was pretty much what happened. And as Dad dropped her off, she turned to him and said, "Son, you're a disgrace. Don't show your face around here again." Well, he tried to visit, but every time the nurse would turn him away, saying that Grandma was feeling sensitive and had specifically requested not to let him into her room. I went all the time. Grandma and I had always been close, and I guess I felt sorry for her. She looked very sad. I asked her if she was okay, and she leaned in close to my ear and whispered something that freaked me out. She said the care staff were abusive. And just that morning, they'd run her a scalding hot bath and burnt her arm without even caring. When I looked down at her arm, sure enough, it was red and looked really painful. Unbelievable! How could they treat her like that? I was furious, and I stood up to go and have a word with the head carer on duty. Just as I was standing up to go, Grandma grabbed the back of my dress and pulled me back. She begged me not to say anything, as she was afraid they'd hurt her more if I complained. This was outrageous. I couldn't leave my grandma in a place like this. What would they do next? I decided I'd stay around for a few hours and keep an eye on them. We continued to play chess and nothing much happened. Just as I was about to leave though, I overheard one of the male carers laughing and making fun of someone called Esme. My grandma had mentioned an Esme before, and I remembered it was the woman in the room next door. So not only were they careless about how they treated the residents, they were also mocking them behind their backs. Wait until my dad heard about this. Oh boy, he'd be seething with anger. I got up to leave as it was getting late, and my grandma asked me if I could do her a favor. I assumed she wanted me to keep this a secret from my dad, but instead, she asked me to do something insane. She asked me to help her sneak out of the home, so basically she wanted me to kidnap her. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but then I looked at the red skin on her arm, and I realized it was obvious. Of course I'd kidnap her. The next day I came back and we planned it all. The carers and nurses knew how much my grandma loved gardening, so in the afternoon when a lot of the other residents were napping, I took Grandma in a wheelchair through the grounds of the home. I had to give it to the home. They really did have a beautiful garden. And I knew that at the very bottom of the garden, there was a little gate that led to the road, where we could make our escape. The place didn't have much security because I don't think old people often thought about running away, so I was sure our plan would work. We pretended to look at all the plants as we headed towards the gate, and the whole time my grandma was giggling like a schoolgirl. She was so excited to get out of there, and I couldn't blame her. I'd want to run away from those horrible carers too. I was sweating due to the nerves, even though it was a pretty chilly day, but we made it to the other side without so much as even a bird noticing us. Grandma was free. Luckily, I had got my license 6 months ago, and Dad had bought me a car for my 16th birthday, so we dumped the wheelchair outside the gate, and I helped Grandma into the front seat. Well, that was mistake number 1. In all the excitement, we hadn't really thought it through clearly, and didn't think that someone would spot the wheelchair and then contact the home and report it. But that only happened later. The first thing Grandma wanted to do was go for ice cream, and so we drove straight there, and then ordered 3 scoops each before heading to the beach to dip our toes in the ocean. Grandma looked so blissful. It was really nice to see her like that. I asked her what she wanted to do next, and she said she wanted to go for burgers at her favorite restaurant. She said she missed fast food, and that she was starving because the nursing home barely fed her. We ordered burgers, fries, milkshakes, and once again, Grandma looked so happy. It felt like old times, but then my phone started ringing and I panicked. It was Mom. I didn't answer, but she called again and again. On the 4th time, I decided I better answer. I didn't want her to suspect anything. As soon as I answered, Mom started shouting and said the nursing home had called and Grandma had disappeared, and did I know where she was? I have never been a good actor, so there was no way I could lie to her. I told her we were just driving in my car, but we'd be heading back soon and no one need worry. Well, my mom isn't stupid. She clearly heard the infamous music that particular diner always played, and I knew we had about 10 minutes to get out of there before she arrived. Grandma didn't seem too fazed, which was weird to me. I ran to the restroom and told her to finish her food quickly. When I came back, she had a wild smile on her face. "What have you done now, Grandma?" I asked her. I could see she'd been on my phone. She wouldn't tell me though, she just kept smiling in a sneaky way. This was all a bit strange. Shouldn't she have been worried about what Mom and Dad would say? I didn't want her to have to return to that awful nursing home. As soon as Mom arrived, I'd tell her about the hot bath and how cruel the staff were. I saw Mom park up outside, and Dad was there too. Oh no, he'd go bonkers at Grandma. I gathered up our stuff and Grandma paid the bill. It was time to face up to reality. We had a great day, but now we were in big trouble. I just knew it. Before we'd even opened the diner door, Dad was marching towards us with a grim expression plastered across his face. I'd be grounded for the rest of my life. "What do you think you're doing, Mom?" he shouted. "And you too, Eleanor. You are in deep trouble, my girl. Mom, get in the car at once. I'm taking you back to the home." But then, Grandma just laughed, and I found myself speaking up. I told Mom and Dad everything that had happened, and they just looked at me, not buying it at all. Grandma started blushing, and she said she'd made it up, just so that she could get out of there. She said they actually treated her very well, but she just didn't want to be there, and that there was somewhere else she would rather be. I couldn't believe she'd lied to me. Why? Then she said there was something else she'd been meaning to tell me, but before she could, Dad started shouting. "Oh, stop it, Mom. Look, you either move in with us or you're going back to the nursing home. There's no one else who can look after you, and don't even think about mentioning that gym guy," Dad barked. "I'll look after her," a voice somewhere behind Dad said. We all turned to look, and standing right there behind Dad was an elderly man, grinning from ear to ear, car keys jingling in his hand. Who was this man? And who was Jim? I was so shocked. And then Grandma started laughing and walked towards him and gave him a big kiss on the cheek. So that was who she'd called on my phone when I was in the restroom. But who was he? Then my dad shook his head and said, "Oh no, is this that Jim fellow then? See, son, I told you Jim was a good man, and yet you didn't believe me. It's been 5 years since your dad passed away. And I like to think that he'd be happy I've moved on and found someone as lovely as Jim. Now please don't be rude. Come and say hi. Well, you should have seen Dad's face. His jaw almost touched the ground. I just stood there staring. Did this mean Grandma had a boyfriend? I didn't even have one. My grandma was seriously full of surprises, telling me that the carers were treating her badly just so she could escape and be with Jim. Hilarious. I had no idea my grandma was so naughty. And also, I had no idea that my parents had known all along. But hang on, that meant Dad had put her in the home to keep her away from Jim? But that made no sense. Wait a second, I shouted. Dad, did you seriously put Grandma in a home so she wouldn't be able to move in with Jim? But why? Why would you do that? That's not fair at all. Grandma is a grown woman and she can make her own decisions. Then things got really awkward and Dad started shouting at Grandma. And then Mom was shouting at Dad. And I just stood there and looked at Jim and shrugged my shoulders. I walked over to him and shook his hand and introduced myself. Then I apologized for our family being so crazy, and he just laughed and said his family was exactly the same. Then I went back over to Dad and Grandma and told Dad to stop acting like a child and let Grandma do what she liked. I said she seemed so excited that Jim had arrived and that I hadn't seen her this happy in weeks. Dad was super hesitant to let Grandma go with Jim, but as you've probably realized by now, my grandma wasn't about to listen to her son. So off she went with Jim, and I've never seen her look so happy.